So basically what we're doing here is we're going to do a prediction. I'm recording now. We're going to do a prediction on the NACT playoffs. For those that don't know, only 4 out of the 8 teams make it. It's a little bit different than MPL. The 4 top scoring teams out of the regular NACT season, which is a split season, so every team plays every other team twice throughout the span of about 8 weeks. And now we come into the playoffs. The top 4 teams that made it to playoffs, the Ohio Brothers, the Empire, Bloodthirsty Kings, and Ackerman. Ohio Brothers took the number 1 slot. That's why they're on the top side. They go up against the number 4 slot, which is Empire, and the number 2 and 3 slot face against each other, which BTK got the number 2 slot, Ackerman got the number 3 slot. It's a double elimination bracket. Every single team has 2 lives, except for the team that goes all the way to the grand finals. If they lose in grand finals, then they are still out. Just like your typical MPL once again, right? Nothing too crazy about the playoffs bracket. The only big difference is that it's 4 instead of 6 teams. So I think game 1 is probably the easiest game in all of this to predict. I hate to put it like that, but I think game 1, Ohio Brothers versus the Empire, this is going to be an easy dub, I think, for the Ohio Brothers. They easily move on to the next round, right? Like, I don't think there's any question about that. Empire, on the other hand, will go down to the lower bracket. And all of these are going to be best of 5s. I would, if I had to put a score on this, I think maybe Empire gets a game. Maybe Empire gets a game. Maybe. Pika Pika, what's up? Welcome, welcome. Lauren Cervantes, but Trex, what if? We're going to do a couple what if scenarios in here. We're going to definitely do a couple what if scenarios, a couple possibilities, but I want to keep it pretty straightforward because I don't want to do. I mean, I guess I could do multiple videos, but I'll definitely give a lot of different opinions on like things that could possibly happen, things that might be interesting, etc., etc., etc. So Ohio Brothers most likely beat the Empire like 3-1. It could end up being a 3-0 sweep. Maybe the Empire stands a chance, but I'm not going to lie. I think the Empire is coming into this unless they straighten out a lot of issues they had, or a lot of things that I saw as issues that other people might not see, but I think it's going to be a problem in the playoffs, right? So, like, currently when we look at NACT and we look at BTK, Ackerman, and the Ohio Brothers, they are just kind of leagues above every other team on the top 8. The only teams that really gave them challenges, I feel like, were each other. And that's just the reality. I just think that's just the reality of it. Empire was a team that a lot of us doubted at first, didn't really have too much information on. We were iffy about them, and they made it to top 4. I got to give them that. And they made it to top 4 like doing some stuff that shouldn't really fly. Like swapping, Alex would swap over to the gold lane, and Mikasa would jungle on like the Karina or something. And then whenever Alex was jungling, he would pick up like the Martiz jungle or something. We would see Mikasa a lot of time run like this Alice off lane or something of that nature that's not a marksman. I do not think that is going to fly in best of 5s. I think maybe they can pull it out once here and there, but I think against the Ohio Brothers, BTK, and Ackerman, it is not going to work. They lost to Lamey top just because they didn't pick up a marksman in the gold lane. And I think if they try to play like that in the playoffs, they're going to have a very quick exit. So, yeah, I think TOB gets, 3-0, maybe 3-1. But I think this first game is probably going to be a slaughter fest. It's just if they don't, I'll be super happy. And before we go any farther, I want to say, I know I use some very exaggerated words like Slaughterfest or this or that. I am not downplaying Empire at all. I don't think they're a bad team. And if any team that I'm saying is going to lose wins, it would make me that much more excited. If somehow the Empire pulls a rabbit out of a hat and gets a dub on the Ohio Brothers first round, it would be like BTK beating Blacklist and M3. It would be phenomenal. It would be amazing. But I just don't think it's going to happen, right? The reality is most likely TOB sweeps the Empire in the first series, 3-0. Maybe Empire gets a game. All right. After that, BTK versus Ackerman. This is a hard game to predict. This is a hard game to predict, right? I think I want to say that I think BTK ends up taking this one. I don't think it's going to be an easy take. I definitely think it's going to be 3-1, 3-2. But at the same time, like that's what numbers would say, right? Like that's what statistics would say. But I think it's also very possible. I think it's very, very possible that either of these two teams could sweep the other team. I think if a team gets like with these two teams, if one of them gets momentum, and I think this is going to be the story for a lot of these games. Like if a team gets momentum in game one and then takes game two, I think it could be very downhill from there. I think it could very possibly be very downhill from there. So I think game one is going to be very important in this series. From what I know, Ackerman is training a lot. They're looking good. My worry for BTK is if they are training enough. I hop into Zane's stream sometimes, and I see him say things like, man, I can't even get my 5-man running. I can't even get people to practice, da-da-da-da-da-da. So I'm wondering if Ack is in the same boat or not. I think whoever's practicing more is going to win this. I think these two teams are pretty close in strength right now. But I do think BTK is going to come out on top of this one. Sorry, guys. All right. So then we get Ackerman. We'll lose, possibly. Again, these are just my normal predictions. Okay. Now here comes... this is where we're going to start messing around in the realm of things, right? This is where we're gonna start playing around a little bit. I've got this hot take. I've got this possibility that would just be really cool. And I don't know if it's gonna happen. I just think it could be exciting. It could be interesting, right? I've been thinking this for a while, and sometimes I just get these like gut ideas, right? These ideas like, yo, what if fourth slot gets to third place? Because right now, I think everyone is thinking that it's going to be Ohio Brothers, BTK, Ackerman. It's one of those three teams, right? What if Empire beats Ackerman? I think it could be a possibility. I think if BTK went to the lower bracket, it could be a possibility. But for some reason, I feel a little bit more comfortable over Empire beating Ackerman in the lower bracket. I will say this. Nicolette is like known. I'll say this. Nicolette, when it comes down to crunch time, Nicolette puts her big girl pants on. I will tell you that much. So I do want to say that I feel like Ackerman will probably win this. I feel like Ackerman will probably win this. Just because I know, like, I've seen Nicolette in some weird... I've seen, like, back in Team Sexy days, like, her and Best Player, like, I've seen them kind of have some faulty games, lose game one, and come back and just start, like, hammering. So I think it's definitely... I think it's definitely possible. I don't think it's going to be a 3-0. I think Empire, after losing their game against the Ohio Brothers, are also going to understand how real it is, and they're not going to go down to a sweep. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I really think it is possible for I really think it's possible that Empire could possibly get a win here. So there's a couple possibilities I could do on this bracket, and I want to like run it. I wish I could just sit here and like run a bunch of different ideas, but that wouldn't really be fair, right? Because then I'd just be defending myself and saying all the different things, and no one could ever talk trash about me and tell me how wrong my prediction is. But I do want to make this clear. I really think this could happen, right? I really do think this could happen. I just think it could for some reason. But for the cause of protecting myself against insane viewers, I'm just kidding. We're going to put Ackerman here. In the end, it doesn't really matter too much, right? Ackerman has came a long way this season. They came in very strong. We got Zia, Nicolette, Kush. I'm having a total mind blank right now. Zia, Nicolette, Kush. I'm having a total mind blank right now. Start.gg. Don't judge me, guys. Help me out. You fans know the players. Bro, how do I not remember these things? People are going to hate me, bro. People are like, what do you mean you don't remember? You've been casting them for the past blah, 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 blah. Galaxy. Promise. Nact. Anyways. Gala. Yeah, Galaxy. Nicolette, Kush, Zia, Galaxy, and what? Nact? Toinks. It's Toinks. They all, from what's their, see, that's another thing. Their names on my thing is different than what it is now. We're going to do the MPLPH playoffs here in a minute. Okay. Ackerman's definitely, I mean, they're a powerhouse. I almost wish that Nicolette and Best Players stayed together and kept Team Sexy going, but I'm very happy that Nicolette found a strong team to be a part of. I think Ackerman has a very big future ahead of themselves. I pray to the North American Challengers Tournament gods that they do not change their name and that this roster stays very, very similar as we move on to the future seasons. I hope that Zia, Nicolette, Kush, at least those three stay on this team, no matter how they end up finishing in this. As long as they can beat the Empire in the lower bracket, depending on how this goes, as long as they can secure third place, they will get a little bit of money in their pocket, and I think that is promising, right? As I've said, they've all done well. I think Zia, honestly, is the only player on this team that we know very well, and I feel like last year when he switched over to Gold Lane, did a decent job. Like in the NASL, even when he went up against big teams, he did a decent job. And this season, I feel like he hasn't really like wowed me this season. There hasn't been anything that's made me like, yo, Zia. It's been a little iffy this season for Zia. So I think it's going to be very important for him to do well. But as long as Kush and Nicolette can do what they do, I think they'll be able to do very well. Now, up to the upper game, it's Tob versus BTK. Tob versus BTK. Get your freaking clip tubers out, because we're about to get real controversial up in here. If you guys haven't already, make sure you like this stream, click the subscribe button, all that good stuff. I really would appreciate it. Take a second to do that. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. I haven't seen that like button go up at all. Yeah, it's okay. So Tob versus BTK. Oh, I feel like I don't want to talk too much about this match in particularly, because, spoiler alert, I think these two teams are going to be in the grand finals. I think this match, though, is going to be a possible preview, but I don't think it's going to be too much. I think BTK may end up losing this match here. I think that if BTK can win game one, if BTK can just win a game, in this first best of 5, they could possibly take the series. If they can win game 1, confidence goes up. Everybody's feeling themselves. And I think they're good. TOB's not going to troll against BTK. TOB doesn't troll against good teams. They don't. I don't want to say good teams. That's a bad word because I'm saying that means I'm implying that other teams are bad teams. TOB never trolled against BTK and they never trolled against Ackerman. I don't think they're going to. So let's just say, like I said, if BTK can win game 1, I think there is a possibility for them to like move up, right? Maybe win this. If they lose game 1, Ohio Brothers definitely take this. BTK maybe take a game at that point. I do think BTK end up losing this match. Okay. Ackerman versus BTK. We're gonna do some story time. We're gonna go back. We're gonna use some probabilities here, right? First week of round robin. I mean, first session of round robin in the NACT, guys. BTK starts off a little bit rough. They go against the strongest team in the season in the first week. They go against the Ohio Brothers and lose 2-0. It's a devastating hit. All of America is in shambles, and everyone feels like Mobazane isn't good any longer. Is that BTK is just an old folk tale that no one really cares, and the team is kind of garbage. That's where BTK is sitting after that dreadful Saturday, right? I still felt like, I mean, they went against the team that everyone lost against. We go into that Sunday, BTK wins 2-0. As the weeks prevail, we eventually get to see Ackerman versus BTK. Now, in the first session of round robins, Ackerman versus BTK, it's round 3, it's week 2, day 1. Ackerman beats BTK 2-1. So in the first 3 days of the NACT, BTK has lost twice now. But they do take a game off of Ackerman, and this is probably going to be this is an important thing to talk about, right? They take a game off of Ackerman, and it's not prime BTK. This is when BTK is still having a lot of hiccups, a lot of issues that we're seeing, a lot of problems, a lot of things, right? Now, as the weeks move on, Ackerman continues to do well. They take a loss to Lamy Top the next day. Ackerman beats Area 77 2-0. It's a notable win. BTK beats Lemmy Top 2-0, a little bit better than Ackerman did. Ackerman beats the Empire. BTK beats Fallout. They're sweeping people. They're beating people. And then we come into a very important game later on in the season. It's the second round robin, round 10. That would be week 5. It's Ackerman versus BTK again. BTK just took a big loss to TOB the week before, going 2-0. It's their second big loss to TOB. They almost get a win in game 1. But they're not quite able to, right? So they come into the next game, into the next week, after beating Empire 2-0 to face up against Ackerman. Ackerman also took a bad loss to the Ohio Brothers the previous day, 2-0. And this is where we start to see Ackerman getting shaky throughout NACT, right? This is where we start to see them getting a little bit shaky. They go against BTK, and BTK dominates them. They 2-0 them. And Ackerman doesn't even almost take a game. They almost don't even take a game. So, if we look at just the past statistics, if Ackerman has not evolved, has not straightened themselves out by the playoffs, I think BTK has this. Could be 3-2. Could end up being a 3-1. Not going to lie. I think if Ackerman wins this, it is definitely a 3-2. If BTK wins this, it could go either way. I think game 1 is going to be very important. But once again, right now, I feel like BTK is a team that really runs off of that really runs off of momentum. So if BTK wins game 1, it is going to be tougher and tougher for Ackerman to win. Because BTK is just going to like scale, right? Ackerman, though, does do, like, Nicolette, some of these players, I think, do okay after taking a loss, so the possibilities are there as well. If Ackerman wins game 1, I still think they could shake and BTK could come back. In the end, though, I do think BTK will take this. I just do. I think BTK are going to end up winning this. So BTK over to the grand finals, up against the Ohio Brothers for the revenge match. For the revenge match, yo. For the revenge match. Whew. Tough. There's a lot of things to talk about with this match, with this grand finals match. First of all, it's epic as shit. First of all, this is probably going to be one of, if this is the match, it is probably one of the, it is the most hype match NACT Grand Finals has ever had. For so many different reasons. The main reason being, you have players, you have Moba Zane, the man who just went to M3 with 3 of the players from the Ohio Brothers. So there is some electricity in the air. There is some tension on the shoulders of these players. There is some tension in the crowd when these guys walk out. That is just the reality. I am so, if these are the 2 teams that make it to grand finals, I am excited to see how they all react to each other. I want to know if they are still kind of friends, if there is some energy, and whether they are all buddy-buddy or not. When it comes game time, these guys are, everyone's going to be ready. Everyone's going to be ready. I want to talk about some advantages and disadvantages for both teams. I think when MS is low, things are going to get a little bit more interesting for the side of BTK. We have heard that they've had some big ping issues, things of that nature. So I think that could help them a little bit, right? It could do a little something for them. Somehow the colors of my lights keep changing. I don't really know how, but it's happening, right? Best of 7. It's a best of 7 in the grand finals. Every other match in the playoffs is a best of 5. Give me 1 second, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, pop the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. We got 78 people watching. What's up, guys? God, that sweet tea is good. Okay. Some things about TOB here. I think what's important for BTK is they're going to need to definitely worry about the fanny here. Best player is going to be on the best MS he's ever played in his whole life. And he's going to be itching. Best player is going to be itching to play assassin players. And I think that could be something that BTK uses to their advantage. Maybe try to bait him into playing certain assassins. I think it could be a possibility. I think it could be a way that BTK gets a dub here, right? I think best player is going to want to, he's going to really want to play some assassins, and that's just the reality of the situation, I believe. There are 7 games here for teams to change up. They can even try some things, do player bans, target bans. There's a lot of ways to move around here. I think game 1 is going to probably be pretty simple. I don't think we're going to see anything too crazy. BTK almost took a game against the Ohio Brothers in second season. That match they were very close to taking, but a lot of teams almost took games against the Ohio Brothers, and the Ohio Brothers were able to come back. I think this is something that shows how far ahead TOB really is. Comparative to other teams, I don't think there wasn't many other teams that fell behind, brought it down, were behind several K gold, stretch the game out to 20, 30 minutes, and then just were able to come back. We didn't see that a whole lot in the NACT this season. We saw it occasionally, but when any of the big teams, the big three, I would like to say, the Ohio Brothers, BTK, and Ackerman, the big three, when any of the big three were involved, that didn't really happen that much, unless it was Tob. So, if you guys are just coming in, it's okay. Welcome, welcome. If you really want me to respond to something, I can't really. I'm recording this video as well. I'm going to go back and edit it and stuff. If you really want, I hate to say this, but if you really want me to respond to chat or something you guys say, you can always do a donation. But I'm trying not to read chat too much right now. I'm sorry if I'm missing any of your comments, but yeah, we're trying to really focus on this. Okay. Now, like I said, best player is going to be itching to play Assassin, but I will also say this. Joybaj is going to be on Great MS. Cho is going to be a good pick for him possibly. We know that Joybaj has been having some issues with his MS, so some things are there. If BTK can win game one here, and I know I've been saying this about them a lot, but I think if they can win game one against the Ohio Brothers, we are definitely in for a show, guys. I will tell you that much. If they win game one, just know this is going to be hype. We are probably going to 7 matches if BTK wins game one. I just think those possibilities are there. There are some definite things that TOB. Let's talk about some advantages for each team, right? TOB, I think the major advantage for them is going to be lack of stage fright. You have Basic, Hoon, Shark, Ureshi, who all have experience on the stage. Who am I missing? Best player is the only one who doesn't have experience on the stage, but when you're surrounded by 4 players that do, and knowing best player, being in VCs with best player, he seems kind of like the guy who feeds off that stuff. So I think once best player secures a kill, hears the crowd yell, best player is going to be funkin'. He kind of marks me as the kind of guy that like feeds off that. Kind of similar to me. When I'm casting and I hear the crowd yell and there's a big moment, it pumps me on even more. The nerves are gone. I'm ready to go. So I think that is a huge advantage for the Ohio Brothers, right? BTK, on the other hand, all they have is Zane with stage experience. You have Yato, you have T, Joybaj, Yato, T, Joybaj, and I'm having total mind blank here. Mage is Yato, Tank is, that's who I'm missing, Joybaj, EXP's T, Gold Lane is ISO. ISO, though, is easy peasy. None of these 4 players have any stage experience. So game 1 is also going to be a very hard game for them to win, I think. It's going to be their first time doing this. It's going to be their first time in front of lights, cameras, all that stuff. Their first time showing their face, some of these players. Yato, a lot of these players haven't even showed their face on Discord. Nobody even knows what they look like. Nobody even knows what they look like, which is kind of crazy. There's going to be a crowd in NA? Bro, you're tripping. Last time there was 120, 140 people, which isn't a lot, but it's people. It's people watching you play, yelling, things like that. So yeah, that will be happening. So that is definitely going to, I think, be a possible problem. If BTK can get past that, I think Zane really needs to be like the rally for his troops. He needs to be the commander that he needs to be and try to get these guys as pumped and as motivated as possible. I don't know. Maybe it's true. I think that's going to be the most important thing for Zane here is he needs to kind of play more. I know Zane is normally, he always comes off as more of the guy that like really like pushes his players to play good and kind of calls them out on their shit and this and that. I think this is a time when maybe Zane needs to be a bit more of like the nice guy coach trying to bring his players up. because he's not with a bunch of guys like Chicken and Shark and like guys who like fucking do this and they're used to it and they can take it. So I think he really needs to come into this a bit more up. It's not going to be easy. This is a really big series. I do think that this is going to be the very first time in NACT history that we don't have a sweep in the grand finals. I think the possibilities for BTK to win this are no higher than 40%. I think that's where they sit at right about now. I think it's just I think TOB just has better odds. They have a bit more experience. You've got 4 monsters, guys that just got out of M3, and Zane's got 4 rookies essentially. It's Zane and 4 rookies. Great rookies, I might add. Great rookies, I might add. I've been saying it from the very beginning that Yato, T, Joybaj, I really like the team. I've known all of these players for a long time now. I think they're all really good. But I think that it's going to take a little bit more time for them. I think whoever ends up going, and the same thing for Ackerman. If Ackerman goes, if they end up being in this spot, I think it's about the same. I think they have lower odds. If Ackerman ends up going in the spot, I think they're sitting at about 30% to win it. Like I said, I think BTK could pull it off. They could. But the Ohio Brothers most likely ends up taking this championship. I think they end up getting the win here. I think the final score could be, 4-2. Like I said, if BTK can win game 1, I think we might see all 7. If BTK can win game 1, we might see all 7. If not, it's probably going to end up being 4-2, 4-1. The Ohio Brothers right now, their synergy's on point. They have all the boxes checked. BTK needs to be ready if they want to go up against this. A lot of it's going to come down to how prepared they are, how much they've been playing, how much they've been practicing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To where, honestly, I feel like TOB could practice less and still maybe take the dub here. But I know TOB is like practicing regularly. Now that they're outplay officially, I know they have some sponsorship going on. They're expected to practice. Like they now have someone hounding them to do things, and it's no longer just a game, right? So in the end, the Ohio Brothers, I think, end up getting the dub here. But again, I think it could go several different ways.